There's a type of person who spends a lot of time alone, not because no one invites them out, not because they don't have friends, but because they genuinely feel better that way. They cancel plans sometimes. They stay in when everyone else is going out. They choose silence over noise. And strangely, it doesn't feel empty. It feels calm. But here's what confuses everyone else. If you're alone that much, aren't you lonely? Maybe you've experienced this. You turn down an invitation. Not because you dislike the people, but because the idea of going feels exhausting before it even starts. You sit at home on a Friday night, phone next to you, notifications quiet. Instead of feeling left out, you feel relieved. You enjoy your own space, your own thoughts, your own rhythm. And it's not that you hate conversations. You can talk, you can laugh, you can connect. But after a while, something shifts. Your energy drops. Your mind starts pulling inward. So you leave, or you don't go at all. And then comes the questions. Why are you always alone? Don't you get lonely? And sometimes, you don't even know how to explain that you're actually okay. For years, we've been told something very simple. If you're alone, you must be lonely. If you enjoy being by yourself, something must be wrong. Maybe you're shy. Maybe you lack social skills. Maybe you're avoiding life. That's the story people repeat. But here's what they don't see. There are people who go to every party and still feel completely disconnected. There are people who are constantly surrounded by others, yet feel like no one really understands them. And then, there are people sitting alone in their room, doing nothing special, and feeling perfectly fine. So maybe the question isn't, are you alone? Maybe the real question is, asterisk, asterisk. What does that aloneness actually feel like? To you? Asterisk, asterisk. To understand this, you have to look at how your mind actually processes the world. Not everyone experiences social interaction the same way. For some people, being around others gives them energy. It stimulates them. It keeps them going. But for you, it might work differently. There's something psychologists often describe as a kind of asterisk asterisk, social battery, asterisk asterisk. Yours isn't broken. It's just wired differently. Every conversation, every noise, every subtle social cue, your brain is processing all of it. Tone of voice, facial expressions, unspoken tension. It's a lot. So, while others feel energized after hours of interaction, you start to feel full, not bored, not antisocial, just saturated, like a glass that's already filled to the top. And when that happens, your system naturally looks for a way to reset. That's where solitude comes in, not as an escape, but as a form of recovery, a space where your mind can slow down, where you don't have to process anything external. Because here's another layer to it. You don't just experience the world outwardly, you process it inwardly. Your thoughts are more active, more detailed. It's like having an ongoing conversation in your head, reflecting, analyzing, connecting dots. So when you're alone, you're not actually empty. Your mind is still engaged, just in a quieter way. So maybe this changes the way you see it. You're not alone because something is missing. You're alone because your internal world is already active. You don't need constant input because your mind is already generating enough depth on its own. And that's why silence doesn't scare you. It doesn't feel like absence. It feels like space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to just be. So when people ask, don't you get lonely? What they don't realize is this. You're not avoiding connection. You're just not dependent on it every moment. But here's the uncomfortable question. Are you choosing to be alone, or are you slowly hiding inside it? Because from the outside, those two things can look exactly the same. Staying home, keeping to yourself, limiting interaction. But the reason behind it changes everything. Sometimes, solitude is a choice. You step away because you want to recharge, because you value your space, because you know your limits. And when the time is right, you can step back into the world without fear. But other times, it's not really a choice anymore. You start avoiding things, not because you need rest, but because it feels safer. Safer than being misunderstood, safer than feeling awkward, safer than risking rejection. And slowly, Solitude stops being a place you visit. It becomes a place you hide in. That's the line most people never notice. And the hardest part is, only you can tell which side you're on. So, maybe being alone was never the real issue. Maybe the real question is, do you understand why times you're alone? Because the same behavior can come from two completely different places. One comes from clarity. You know your limits. You respect your energy. The other comes from avoidance. You're tired, but not just physically. You're tired of being seen the wrong way. And over time, it becomes easier to stay in your own space than to risk stepping out of it. But self-awareness changes everything. When you understand your patterns, your solitude stops feeling confusing. It becomes intentional, not something you fall into, but something you choose. And there's a quiet kind of confidence in that. Being able to sit alone, without needing distraction, without needing validation. That's not emptiness. That's stability. Part of the confusion also comes from the world you live in. Especially in modern, fast-moving cultures, there's this unspoken rule. Being social means you're doing well. Being alone means something is off. You're expected to network, to go out, to stay visible. And if you don't, people start to question it. But not every culture sees it that way. In places like Japan, spending time alone isn't always viewed as a problem. It can even be seen as a form of balance, a way to reconnect with yourself. So sometimes, what you label as lonely is actually just ***, different from what society expects. ***. So maybe you're not as lonely as you think. Maybe you've just learned how to be with yourself in a way most people haven't. And yes, connection still matters. Being understood still matters. But it doesn't have to be constant, to be real. Because at the end of the day, loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected, even when you're surrounded by people. And peace? Peace is being okay, in your own company, even when no one else is there.